Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, some exciting candidates emerging as far as Tech's offensive line coach search is concerned, and an injury update for Warren Washington. It's a fingers crossed episode next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again, my man, and a couple of things to get to today, a couple of updates or non-updates, I suppose. We'll find out. And also want to get to the NFL Combine, where you got some Red Raiders turning heads before we are out of here on today's episode. Let's begin in a football category, a conversation we haven't gotten into for a few days now. Not sure what has developed thus far. We talked last time around whenever we discussed the search for a new offensive line coach about some candidate profiles, maybe some attributes or traits that would be involved for the next guy in line. But curious to hit the radar with you this morning and see maybe what has developed, if anything. We had seen some previous hires really develop very, very quickly. I guess as we're sitting here today, a little bit removed from Stephen Hamby no longer being the offensive line coach, I can't say that it's been lightning fast as to how this has developed, but what are you hearing there from your end?
Well, first of all, happy Valentine's Day, to everybody out there, and you're right, there's Joey McGuire still trying to find a Valentine's, to be the old offensive line coach.
We're playing matchmaker.
Yeah, that's right. You got it, because because what is going on right now is that they are not like full-fledged practicing, but there's some light workouts going on, and like play calling and like guys running routes and scheme being talked about and all those things. And right now in the interim, Josh Cochran, who's your tight ends coach, is the one that's coaching kind of the offensive line, and I guess tight ends too. Time is of the essence here. Again, it's all about, and we'll get into the kind of the why here in a second, but these days are valuable, and you can't get them back. And yes, you look up and it's like, we have so far ahead of the season. I mean, I just know that there was already a ton of work that had been done since the end of the bowl game up until when all of this news came out about the new players and scheme and how do we want to tweak it, and just all these conversations and trying to get on the same page with everybody. And now you're going to kind of have to start all over. And some people but just may not like grasp how important that is, but it is also important to find the right fit here that jives with everything that you need, that jives with Joey and Zach and the players that are here, and scheme that you can realistically run with the players that you have. I mean, all those different things come into play. And so fast forward to, from when this happened until present time here. And I think you're getting close. I think that there is potential movement, in the next day to 3 days, to where you can kind of eliminate some folks and really hone in on others. But I'm just my opinion, I think there could be, and I'm not going to rule this out because I've heard things, but I'm not going to rule out door number 3. But I think it's really door number 1 and door number 2 are Chris Thompson and Clay McGuire in some order. That's what I think. I think Chris Thompson specifically and Clay McGuire specifically will be in this conversation until they aren't, or until someone else is named. Okay, kind of like we talked about with Grant and that coaching search for the basketball job. It's like all these other candidates kind of came in and out. of everything. And, we were mentioning James Borrego, and then all of a sudden it's like everybody else was mentioning James Borrego too. You remember this, this mystery candidate? Yeah. But Grant McCaslin was the constant. And I think Chris Thompson and Clay McGuire, for obvious reasons, are going to be constants here. Doesn't mean that they are the favorites, although I would say that they are. I don't know which one of them is the favorite over the other. I think they both, there's both like questions and both things that you would just say, dude, what are we doing here? And I think Chris's is more obvious in that his is more financial. I think he's a no-brainer fit here. I think he's a phenomenal football coach and man. And I think he would be an unbelievable fit here. I'm not going to shy away from that stance at all. And I feel very strongly about that stance there. I think he would be, but it's not my money. And there's a lot of money that is attached to him that you would have to, I think, potentially buy him out and then pay him what he's making at Florida State. But nobody's hotter just off a 13-0 regular season or whatever it was. And then they had everybody opt out in the bowl game, and it didn't go well. But I mean, they are, that's a program that just kind of came out of nowhere and was nearly at the top. And Chris was right there in the middle of it. And so, and he's obviously been here, Cowan. He's won a bowl game for you. Yeah. When everybody else bailed out, I mean, he rolled his sleeves up and was like, "I got this." And he did it. And he's just all class. He's a West Texan from Vernon, Texas. He's been a head coach before, all those things. And then you have Clay McGuire, who was Michael Leach's very first, I think it was his very first commitment ever from Crane, Texas. He's got Texas Tech running through his blood and has for years and years and years since, 2000-ish. And, he's been in the coaching game for a long time, and he's coached offensive line at USC, at Washington State in multiple stints, at Texas State. And he, and you have a Region and Cody Campbell, they were roommates, so there's just a lot of deep relationships and ties, and he's coached offensive line for a long time. So that's who I'm going to say are 1 and 1A. You order them however you want, but that's to me, and I don't think Clay has as near as much financial. I think he's got a year left on his contract. He's not paid near as much as Chris is, I don't think. And so some of that stuff factors in here, just the financial component. And then there's door number 3. But don't rule out door number 3. Don't. Yeah. So we'll just kind of see. But I do think that I think you're getting much closer, and you need to be wrapping things up. There's not really anything new that you're trying to find out. I think you've had interviews with a lot of candidates. I want to say end of last week. I think multiple people were involved in said interviews. You've had time to kind of discuss it and figure out the financial component. And now it's time to okay, what are we willing to do? Who do we want? Is there mutual interest? Let's make it happen. Here we go. So that's kind of where you're at, Cowan. But time is ticking. So sorry for being long-winded there.
Man, I could get really excited about either one of those options, and Thompson or McGuire would seem like guys that could really hit the ground running, obviously with familiarity with the program, and both of those guys a little longer in the tooth. Certainly in one instance. And I still think about Clay McGuire as like a young guy or just a recently former football player, which is probably the wrong thing to think. That's been a little while. So as previously compared to Coach Hamby in that spot, I think both of those guys clearly have a lot more seasoning as far as spending time in the profession. And as you mentioned, with Thompson was the head coach at Abilene Christian prior to his stop here at Texas Tech. I think the reviews were very high of his time here at Texas Tech. So whichever one of those guys it might be, if it was one of those two, I think a Tech fan could get really excited about. But still not much word on my candidacy. What are you hearing on Mike? Mike, I didn't hear you mention my name. I don't know if something weird came up in the background.
Door number 3.
I can explain it. Yeah. Whatever's on the background check, I can explain it. Just give me a shot. Okay, let's hit a different radar. This one much more recently beginning to spin as we turn our sights to Warren, Washington. First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime, and you shouldn't have to sweat it out when buying tickets to your favorite events. And with Gametime, you never will, because it's always a breeze using the Gametime app, where you're going to find killer last-minute deals, views from every seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it begins, which means Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats to any event. Gametime also the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets, but not just fast, also secure and simple to use. So right now, download the Gametime app and create an account and use our promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Again, download the Gametime app today and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Last minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed with Gametime. Obviously, the win over Kansas came with a hypothetical price, I guess. We really still don't know. Warren, Washington gets banged up in the ball game, continues to try to gut it out, which was a good thing. But as we've been sitting here over the last day and a half or 2 days trying to figure out whether or not this was going to be something that lingered further into the season, was it going to be a worst-case scenario, best-case scenario? Obviously, we're on pins and needles because you're very, very thin within your front court, as in it's like Warren, Washington, and then. So I'm just going back, looking for a reason to hope, and I'm going back to Devin Cambridge and kind of remembering how quickly, I guess, we did get some news whenever it turned out to be a worst-case scenario as to what his future would hold. I haven't seen anything official or anything like that in just the hours that we've had since the ball game came to its conclusion. So this may just be the naive Tech fan in me. I don't know. I'm hoping against hope, but I'm hoping that no news is turning out to be good news as far as avoiding a worst case scenario. So what's this update radar look like, Chris?
I think you're on to something there. I think that because now you help me out here and help remind me, but I think with the Cambridge issue, I think that he gets hurt with the knee injury, and I think you got news the next day. I think that's right.
I thought so, yeah.
You got news the next day after lunchtime. Hey, we have lost Devin Cambridge for the season because of a knee injury. Thoughts are with him. Here's kind of what happened. And you're just like, okay, worst fears have come true. But I think that was the correct timing. You haven't heard anything here about Warren. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to I hate to use the word speculate, but I believe that is good news. Yes. I think the word, not in an official capacity, but the word is that you're going to be okay here. Warren's going to be okay. And all of our dreams may come true. Hopes, wishes, all those things. I would say this. I don't know about like Saturday's game. This is me speculating, and I hate to use that word, but here we are. I wouldn't say that I feel just supremely confident that he plays on Saturday, just for kind of obvious reasons and maybe needing to rest the issue. But I think that you're going to be okay. You've dodged a bullet. I don't think because I think the word on the street, and again, none of this is official, but I from people that seemingly would know, there's no break or there's no tear or fracture, I guess is the word. And so I'm like, sign me up, for none of that, because when I hear the player going, I felt something pop. You're just like, oh God, that's not what I want you to hear, Warren. I want you to hear the crowd roar after you dunk it on Hunter Dickinson's dome. That's what I want to hit. You can run up the court doing he's too small, kind of deal, even though y'all are about the same size, but you get what I'm saying. But no, I think you're going to be okay here. And I hope that I'm right there. I hope that is indeed true. I think that I was ready to be just my soul crushed. Not that this is not a knock on like a Robert Jennings or Kyron Lindsey or an EY. That's not, don't mistake that. But this is a kid who does everything right, who's played some really good ball, who I think is playing a key role on a team that has got a chance to make some noise here. And it's his last hurrah. The other guys I just mentioned, they've got it still all in front of them. This is it for Warren. And I just, you have an outside chance here. I mean, you're going to have to pull off a win on Saturday in Ames, which is not going to be easy. But you have a chance still here at the conference, regular season championship. And so but I was going to be hard for me to envision that or any sort of postseason success without Warren Washington. Not that you couldn't. It just, again, my vision's not anybody else's. I just think that's one guy you just can't afford to lose because you just don't really have any kind of backup. I mean, you could make the argument that Devin and Warren, with the way your team was built, were like two pieces that you just couldn't, because there's just not really, I don't want to say, hey, I'm comfortable losing one of these guards. Not what I'm saying.
Right.
However, there's multiple of them. There's only one like a Devin Cambridge type, and there's only certainly one Warren Washington type. So hopefully he's okay, but I feel pretty optimistic about it. I'll just say that.
I guess I've already learned that I'm not going to limit Grant McCaslin's basketball teams as to what they can accomplish, because coming into the year, I was limiting. Oh, man, we'll be lucky if we get into an NCAA tournament conversation, bubble watch conversation. I was wrong about that. And I don't know what the rest of the season will have to hold, but it seems like you're going to have a great chance to be in that conversation. You lose Devin Cambridge. I was back to limiting. Oh, man, we're limited again. Here we are a few weeks later, and you have had some bumps in the road, obviously. That was going to come with or without Devin Cambridge, I'm sure, in the Big 12 Conference. But if Warren Washington was going to be a guy that was sidelined for an extended period of time, well, I'll just go back to the ball game in Waco. Oh, Warren Washington's not playing. I'm limiting again. We'll probably, what is it going to be, 20 points we're going to get run out of here by? And there was a couple of moments where you thought maybe it would shift into that kind of ball game. But no, you made it very competitive, and you had a chance to win the game on the road. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, for myself as a Tech fan, I've decided to no longer limit Grant McCaslin as to what he can do with a basketball team. But I don't know. There's a short list of MVPs for this basketball team, but there's just not another one that is made up singularly like Warren Washington is. There are some other guys, as you talked about. Nobody's saying, hey, we can lose this guard and easily move on or anything like that. But there's nobody like Warren Washington. There's only one 7-footer that I know of that's on the roster, and one that has really done a great job for you. So hopefully we will get some good news, or the no news will remain to be good news, I guess. And whether or not we see him Saturday at full tilt in Ames against Iowa State, or it's something as he returns back to full tilt on the other side of that, that would be obviously a best case scenario. So glad to hear that. Let's pivot once again, Chris, before we get out of here, and let's hit something that we haven't touched on since this kind of cycle has been taking place, but that is some professional prospects trying to make their way towards the National Football League. The NFL Combine specifically is one thing we can touch on, with 3 Red Raiders involved there. You've got Rabbit, you've got Miles Cole, you got Tyler Owens. But before we get to the bigger picture, we need to kind of go back to apparently all the heads that Rabbit has been turning. What was it, the Senior Bowl not too long ago, or whichever game they put on? And I felt like all I was seeing day after day after day from those scouts in attendance or the personnel that puts on that event was that Drion Taylor Demerson was turning heads and getting quite a bit of attention, man. And obviously for a guy like that, glad to hear it. Hoping for the best for him. Easy to root for. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and the sports calendar keeps turning and the action never stops with America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet hits. There are so many ways to spice up any action with their safe, secure, and easy-to-use app. So get to FanDuel.com/lockedon. And if you're a new customer, take advantage of $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet with FanDuel at FanDuel.com/lockedon, official partner of the NBA. Drion Taylor Demerson was turning heads and getting quite a bit of attention, man. And obviously for a guy like that, glad to hear it. Hoping for the best for him. Easy to root for.
Yeah, he is, and he is. I mean, like with Miles Cole and Tyler Owens, probably not the most productive college careers. There's not a lot of numbers attached to them statistically, games played, all those things. But they are. The NFL sometimes doesn't care because you check the measurables box. Oh, you're really fast. You're really big. You've got long arms. I mean, all these things like, okay, well, we'll coach you up. We're not really worried about what somebody in college did with you. Drion or Rabbit, let's just call him that, is different because he's not the measurable guy, but extremely productive in college and a full career, extremely durable. So, and I think that he is he's really impressed people at these Senior Bowl events. He will at the Combine with his personality, with his just knowledge of the game, his leadership skills. I mean, he may be better than this, but boy, he's going to make somebody look really smart for picking him in the latter rounds. Just because it's like you can plug him into a variety of different roles and he will excel. I think in the NFL, I think you could play him in the slot. You could play him at safety. I think you could play him at corner, depending on matchups. I know you could put him on really any special teams unit, and I think he's going to be able to hang and fit and. The beauty of his game, and I think Tyler Owens is going to kind of have to check this box too, and I think he absolutely does, but it's versatility. There's only, we always see this if those of us that follow the NFL and your favorite team, you wake up on a Sunday, you go to church, whatever, and you come home and you're like, okay, who's active today? Who's a healthy scratch? Or who, and it's like there's 53 dudes, and then they, I think you even whittle it down from that on who's available to play on that Sunday. And so it's all about versatility. They only, hey man, we only have 2 quarterbacks suited up today, kind of stuff. And so The more boxes you check and the more things you can do, the more valuable you are to a team on a Sunday afternoon. So I think Tyler and Rabbit certainly check those boxes because, I mean, the Patriots at one point, different coaching staff, okay, so Bill Belichick no longer there, but the Patriots at one point during the season had Tyler Owens as the top special teams player on their board of anybody in the country. Again, speed, coverage, length, all those things, and so that just kind of gives you an idea of what one NFL team, again, mind you, with a new coaching staff, so you can't really say the same thing is true, but at one time it was. But that's how you have to make it in the NFL if you're a fringe guy, because there's a lot of fringe guys. There's very few freaks out there. And so anyway, but good for those guys because Combine invites are hard to get to, man. And it doesn't guarantee you being drafted, but boy, does it put your best foot forward and really, help your situation out tremendously. Not just the draft, but free agent status and all the above. And they don't hand them out. How about this? Michigan. Let me tell you how many guys from University of Michigan, just to give you an idea of what it takes to win like a natty. Yeah, they got 18 dudes going to the Combine. I'm like, I mean, that's a lot more than 3.
I think I saw there were only, I guess, 6, 7, 8 programs that had 0. So glad to not be on that list.
Oh, yeah.
But I would say, I don't know, you'll have to correct me, but, a trio of Red Raiders is not a small group from a Texas Tech context. And I don't know, I shouldn't be surprised. Maybe I get more down on some of these guys than not because I'm not thinking about the measurables. I'm just a Tech fan. I'm thinking about did you produce in a Tech uniform. But Rabbit is one that I guess I was sleeping on a little bit, at least as far as professional prospects, because I was a little surprised to see him in this group. And I don't know what it has to do with maybe some previous attention getting at the Senior Bowl. But this dude was a guy that played extremely hard. I know he was a great leader for his football team, but from a measurables perspective, I was not thinking he was going to be kind of at the head of this combine class from a Tech perspective, so to speak. Couldn't respect him anymore as a football player, but a little surprised to see him getting so much shine.
I think if we remember, it was the Senior Bowl folks that had come through. I remember talking to Joey about this on his coach's show this season, but the Senior Bowl folks had come through, I don't know, September, early October at some point, fairly early in your season. And they were talking to the guys about Senior Bowl and like the next step. And, hey, here's what we're looking for. And these invites are hard to get. And you get around NFL coaches for the week and, you know, and all that. But here's what we're looking for and all that. And it's you know, and so, but I had a pretty good idea that Rabbit was going to get an invite to this game because I think it was Jim Nagy, maybe, I think was the head of the Senior Bowl. I think I'm right on the name, but he stood up there in front of the whole team and he actually put this out on Twitter too. But he was like, see this dude up here on this video screen? And he shows a clip and it was Rabbit. And it was just like, he's just flying all over the place and playing extremely hard and playing with a lot of juice. He's like, this guy flashes. This guy shows up on film every play. Like, he's playing hard. He's emptying his bucket. This is what it takes at this level. Like, you want to make it, this is how we have to see it. You can't pick and choose when you give it to an NFL staff. There's too many people that want these spots and all those things. And so I had a pretty good idea at that point. I was like, oh, he's definitely on the radar, you know. And then it really never stopped.
Yeah,
I think with his season, and he missed some time with I think maybe it was a hamstring or groin or something at the tail end. He didn't opt out of the bowl game. He played in it. I remember talking about him about how excited he was to play in the bowl game.
Yep.
And I think he said something to the effect of, "It's no fair when the Rabbits got the gun," or something like that. I can't remember what his catchphrase was, but I was like, "Dude, you are one of one, man. I'm gonna miss you." And this team will miss him. This program will miss him. But he's going to make some NFL franchise really look really, really smart if they make a choice there.
I don't mean to catch you off the cuff, but is there a name or names beyond this group that you think we might be hearing about having a better chance either as an undrafted free agent or somebody in a later round?
Oh, I'm trying to remember who has in fact who's done exhausted their eligibility versus who kind of was like, you know what, I'm gonna go continue to play it on out somewhere else.
That's true. We're still in bonus eligibility.
Yeah, I mean, your two corners. I mean, I think your two corners are definitely going to be in the mix. Rashad Williams and Malik Dunlap, I think, are definitely. The problem that they've got, which is a weird problem, and I don't know exactly, but they're older and like really old. Like, I think already like in the 24 to 25 range. I think that's been. I've heard people go, yeah, they're, you know, NFL teams won't necessarily like that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what's wrong with being in your mid 20s? I mean, I'd wind it back if I could. You know,
Yeah.
I mean. But they're like, well, and if, you know, you kind of want, you know, if you can, you want early 20s and you get, you know, so I don't know. I was like,
Gotcha.
wow, okay, that's a new one on me. But those two guys for sure, because they check the measurables box. They are productive. I don't think they're going to just test like crazy off the charts, but those are two guys that I guarantee you get a cup of coffee at the very minimum, if not picked. Yeah. So, but that off the top of my head, that's what I'd tell you.
Man, some guys that played some valuable snaps for Texas Tech in this group.
And Jalen Hutchings. I mean, I don't want to, you know, I think he's absolutely got it. I mean, and I wished he would have gotten a combine invite, but he's going to have to overcome lack of measurables, maybe. You know,
nothing new for him.
Yeah, no, not at all. And he just produces, and he does it with a smile on his face, and he just keeps kicking ass, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but yeah, and as I keep thinking about it, I hope I haven't glossed over anybody. I mean, Baylor Cup. You know, anyway, I'm probably forgetting somebody, but as you know, those are like Cup is a measurables guy. You know, maybe not necessarily production wise, but. And we've got a lot of time to talk about the draft. I always love the NFL draft, and obviously it's fun when your worlds collide. When you root for the NFL team that you like, but your college guys are in it, and where are they going? And like I saw Zach McPherson on the sidelines this past season at a Tech game, who was the Penn State transfer. He's playing for the Eagles. And I'm like, when he was here, I just never thought this is an NFL guy. Dude, he's a third rounder. He's on one of the top franchise. I don't like the Eagles, but I'm going to call it what it is for Zach's sake. He's in one of the best franchises that record-wise in the last couple of years, and he's extremely productive. He was in Lubbock because he got dinged up, but I didn't look at him and go, bona fide NFL dude, check. No. And that's exactly what he is and continues to be. And he's an unbelievable guy too. So you just never know, man. But maybe we got some more of those down because that's what helps you. That's what Joey recruits to. That's what you can preach. That's what you can show. It's tangible and they come back and it grows the family and the brand.
All right, man. Good stuff today. Whenever you're doing an episode where you got a coaching search update and a possible injury update, you never know if you're going to be smiling or frowning by the end of this conversation. But I think there are actually some things to smile about in there. So hopefully some of that we were excited about will come to fruition and ultimately be the reality. Appreciate you out there for joining us. As always, Chris, appreciate your time, my man. Enjoyed it, and we'll do it again on the other side.
Yep. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Yeah. So giddy up. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Appreciate it, Cowan. Keep hope alive out there. And hopefully prayers answered on
right.
on our man Dub, as they call him, Warren Washington. Yes.
Dub squared. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks again for joining us today. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.